Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Movement Podcast, the podcast that is brought to you each month by the South Carolina Education Association. I'm Todd Scholl, and as always, with me today is the co-host, Albert Jones. Albert, what's going on today?
The day is well, actually. On Monday, I was actually with some misters like we have today, but I was with the Clemson division or chapter or campus. And so I'm happy to be here today to have some conversations with the College of Charleston misters and, trying to stay dry. The last couple of days have been pretty wet. So yeah, I'm definitely trying to make sure that, I stay well and dry and all those great things as we get ready for a busy April.
And we got to give a shout out to Albert, who just had our Aspiring Educators and Early Career Educator Spring Conference this past weekend in Columbia. And Albert did such a phenomenal job of organizing that event. We had over 60 young educators there who got some professional learning. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, Albert?
Sure. So the conference was unique. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it is our first in-person event since the pandemic started. And so it gave us an opportunity to meet with over 60, like Todd said, early career educators within their first 10 years of teaching, and then our aspiring educators who are going through pre-service programs. And it was a great opportunity for them to come together, kind of have some community. Our kind of theme was for them to prepare for power, passion, and purpose. And so a lot of the things that I heard from the participants is that, kind of giving them that, there is hope. A lot of times when you may speak to some veteran educators who have more years left, a lot of times that you have those conversations with them, you're on some negative, and kind of you can jaded by the education as it is. And so it really was a unique opportunity for them to come together, support one another, build some rapport and connections. And we had some folks from every corner of the state, from Jasper to Columbia to Clemson. There was some Somerville and some DD2. And so you had some folks from all over, and to really just come together and really build on some collective as we get ready to make some changes for the best interest of them as professionals and their students.
Yeah, there's so much good energy in the room. And, when I think about all of the really amazing young people going into the profession, it gives me hope. And that leads us to today's conversation, where we're going to be talking with some of the future bright stars of public education here in South Carolina. I want to introduce to everybody. You can probably see in the different screens some folks. I want to first introduce Dr. Anthony James. I was fortunate enough to meet him when I was working at SCEA, and we collaborated on some efforts to improve male and minority recruitment. And those efforts seem to bear some good fruit. And in that work, I learned more about the Call Me Mr. program and what a wonderful program that was in helping to identify future education leaders who may have otherwise not considered education as a profession. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. James, let him introduce himself, and we're going to let our guests today introduce themselves rather than us reading the bios.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Todd and Albert. I really appreciate you allowing us to be here with you all today. I'm Dr. Anthony James. I'm the director of the Call Me Mr. program at the College of Charleston. I'm an educator by trade. I taught first grade for 5 years, and I taught with the Alert program in Richard 2 for about 3 years before taking over this role. And today, I have a few of my young men who are in the program with me today. Today we have Alexis and Khaleel, and I'll allow them to introduce themselves.
My name is Mr. Khaleel Barker El-Amin, and I'm a freshman in the Call Me Mr. program. And currently, I'm majoring in middle grade education. And where I want to teach, currently I want to teach in South Carolina.
Yep, so my name is Alexis Jimenez. I'm a senior here at the college. This is my first semester actually with the college, or with the Call Me Mr. program. So I'm kind of new to everything, but I'm majoring in physical education, and I'm also looking to teach here in South Carolina.
Dr. James, do you mind, for those who might be listening or watching who aren't familiar with Call Me Mr., can you give us sort of a brief overview of what the program is for those who are unfamiliar?
Yeah, so the program is designed to recruit minority males to teach. You know, when we started Call Me Mr. 20 plus years ago, we knew that Black males only made up 2% of all educators in South Carolina and really across the country. So we knew we needed to change that narrative. And so Call Me Mr. Is a program where we go out to middle and high schools. We meet with students and we plant those seeds for young males to even consider the profession of education. And so over the last 20 years, Call Me Mr. has done a great job of promoting education. And so we're pretty much in every school in South Carolina, 4-year and technical schools. We're branching out further west. I know we have schools in Georgia, Louisiana. I know South Florida, I believe, has just come on board. We have schools in Illinois. So Call Me Mr. is really starting to catch fire across the country. I think people are starting to realize how important it is to have these young men in their schools, in their classrooms.
Love that. And one of the things that I had the opportunity to do, I've been working with a couple of different Call Me Mr. groups. I had Clemson last week, and I want to say the week before that, I actually was in Orangeburg, and I had an opportunity to be at one of the inaugural events, and they had the opportunity to meet with some high school students. And so they were having some conversations around education as a profession for them, as a major to look forward to in their college experiences. So for you, seeing that this has been 20 years, kind of what was that journey to get to this space of where now you're seeing a program that's in all of these schools and not even just in South Carolina anymore, we're branching out. Like how has that journey been as a director at the College of Charleston and seeing other campuses and now other states thriving as well?
It's amazing. It's an amazing feeling to witness the power of the movement. It's something, some of the young men haven't had a chance to get to Clemson and attend the Leadership Institute, but it's something powerful about having so many men in one room with the same mission and vision, right? Educate, power, and trust. And to build off of that and to see it start to catch fire in other states and other communities is simply amazing. And so, but this work could not be done without the young men in our programs, right? They are the biggest ambassadors of Call Me Mr. Right? Every time they go out to a school, every time they go out in the community, they have on their blazer or their hat or whatever they may be wearing that day. And people know they represent Call Me Mr. They are the biggest ambassadors. And so I think a lot of the recognition, a lot of the credit goes to them, or it needs to go to them. Yes.
So this message and Brenten, thank you for joining us, and feel free to dive into this question because this is for the misters. What was it specifically that made you decide I'm going to go into education? I want to major in education. I want to become a teacher. What was it specifically? Because it a person, an experience, or what combination of conditions led you to this decision?
I think for me, it started off with my exposure of just working with students in the collegiate setting. I've had the privilege of working as adjunct faculty at College of Charleston for the last 10 years. And so doing that part-time amongst my other careers in food and beverage management, just really, it's a different feeling. It's a heartwarming feeling to get back into a classroom and be able to give back to the students things that they need and things that they didn't know that they needed just based on life experiences. And so what really drew me back to the classroom was just watching the light bulb turn on for our students, learning different concepts and things that they can take along to matriculate through life, and watching the light bulb come on and them taking those concepts and actually maturing and growing and matriculating throughout their college experience. Not even that, but just throughout life. I think that for me was the biggest impact. And ever since I've been back in the school student teaching, realizing that there is a need for just somebody to be there for the students, whether it be emotional, whether it be a ear to listen to them, so that to me is mind blowing. And for me, draws me back to the classroom.
Khaleel, Alexis.
Yes, like for me, I've been around education. Education's been around me my entire life. My dad, he's been in education for 15 years. His mom works at South Carolina State. Uncles, aunts, all in education. So at first I wasn't really trying to go into education, trying to be different, but I can't escape it.
Yeah, I think so. For me, just going throughout my career, I've had a lot of good coaches and teachers, and I think that they've had a huge impact to where I am today. And I think that if I could do that to someone else, for those that maybe need that extra push, or, like Brent said, like that, that ear or something for someone else. And I feel like I would love to do that, and just to give back and help those, that need it.
I love that. And I relate to you all's story because I did not think teaching was going to be what I started off as. I taught fourth grade in Columbia. And so I kind of just matriculated through that program. So I was not a mister. I went to USC here in Columbia, like I said. But one of the things that I think is unique is just the community that you all get with one another. I know for myself, I was the only Black male in my graduating class, and I graduated in 2015. And so when I think about that, you all have a community with kind of each other, and not only are you building your future colleagues, you're building some friends and some partnerships there that you can use for the rest of your life. Could y'all kind of speak to that? Like how unique is that for y'all to have people that have the same experiences as you, that look like you, that will be going into the profession? I think that's a powerful thing. I would love to hear more about that. Whoever wants to go first.
No, I'll go. Like for me, like with this program, like being at College of Charleston, predominantly white institution, like it's refreshing every now and then just to be surrounded by people of color, minority, and just seeing that representation. Like, so it's not like feeling like an outcast much of the time, even though like I'm used to it. I don't have a problem with it, but it's just nice to feel like there's a group of people that understand you and that you can just talk with and not have to, like, they understand what you're saying or like how you feel.
Yeah, so for me, so I'm a soccer player, so I always kind of go back to sports, but I think that it applies in the classrooms as well. But so for me, my team was predominantly white, and for some reason, I just didn't really fit in, and wasn't really kind of with just kind of what they were on, their conversations and everything else. I kind of felt out of place, and I think that it correlates in the classrooms as well. Like when you're in a classroom, when you maybe feel like an outcast, can really have an effect on you. And I think that if we can have an environment where we are come together and not feeling like an outcast, I think that you can be a lot more successful and be more open and be more yourself, which I think is very important.
I would agree with both gentlemen that just spoke. It gives a sense of community, a sense of belonging, a sense of support. A lot of times, I know for me, I'm first generational college student. And so not really knowing what to expect when I got to college. And I did both undergrad and my master's at College of Charleston. So PWI, I was actually in for a culture shock when I first moved to campus. It's like when you walk down the street the first day of class and you realize you're one of 3 Black people on the entire street, it is a little different. And when I was in undergrad, unfortunately, the Call Me Mr. program wasn't all the way instituted yet. However, now in the graduate program, having that just sense of brotherhood, a sense of community, sense of young men who are like-minded that we can lean on each other when we need support, just helps to bridge the gap of feeling like we have to assimilate to something that we were already meant to be a part of. And so it gives us that sense of community and family that we can know that we're going to fight forward together.
What specifically in the Call Me Mr. program sort of sets it apart in terms of preparing you for that education career? What are some of the things that you've done, some of the activities, and Dr. James, feel free to jump in on this. What are some of the things that you're doing that help you prepare as you eventually will transition from being a student into your own classrooms?
Well, we do a lot to prepare the young men for all types of situations, right? Because the truth of the matter is they just won't be Black or Hispanic men teaching Black and Hispanic children. You're going to be the educator of all children. And so we try our best to put the young men through situations to help to really think about what they would do in particular situations. And so we prepare them. And again, I can speak from my chapter. Like I said, I've had them train in restorative practices. We do things such as literacy drives. We're doing a project now called Books to Bridges, where we're purchasing culturally relevant books and reading them to minority boys to encourage them to read. And so we just do a lot of different things to really help them understand what it means to be an educator. And again, some of the lessons that I teach them or I share with them aren't always academic lessons. Like I taught in the Title I school, and most of my children, were not from wealthy families. So as a first grade teacher, I would keep, extra underwear, extra snacks, extra toothbrushes and toothpaste in my classroom. And kids didn't need to ask. They had free range on anything, just because sometimes, and one thing I try to stress to my young men, sometimes it's the other factors that play a role in the academic success of a child. If someone is hungry or they don't feel clean, they're not going to learn. And I teach them to create a safe space for the children. Safe, they have to be safe emotionally and physically in your classroom in order for them to learn. So a lot of the things that we do teach them kind of go beyond the curriculum, kind of go beyond the X's and O's of, teaching, but we try to help them understand you have to treat that child from a holistic point of view.
Any of the misters want to share what some of the things you've done that have been helpful in terms of as you start to prepare to transition to the classroom?
I believe that a lot of the methods courses and definitely the student teaching semester prepares you really for the classroom, because it gives you what you need, which is live hands-on experience. You are in the setting, you're giving instruction, you're dealing with disciplinary issues that may arise in the classroom, you're dealing with planning out the instruction, learning how to implement. So it just really helps to, sorry, this went completely blank in my mind. It really does help with just being comfortable, knowing how to handle a situation and knowing what situation you're going to maybe walk into one day. Because being in the high school setting, you're dealing with students who, some of them are emancipated minors who are on their own. So, learning to deal with the, like I said, social and the emotional well-being of that student in the classroom really helps with grounding the teacher when they get into the classroom. Because like I said, you're more than just a teacher. Sometimes you're their parent, you're their best friend, you're their confidant. You are sometimes their first line of defense. So that's where it helps for me.
Yeah, for me, so we do weekly meetings on Mondays, and they're just Zoom meetings, but those have been really beneficial to me just because we've had guest speakers on there, and you learn about just different, like, others' perspectives and different outlooks that, can, maybe add to yours or maybe change how you may think of how they think based on how they reacted to different situations and stuff like that. So I think that those meetings have really helped me just broaden my perspective and just continue to learn from others.
So I guess thinking about your experience, and it's a unique and a blessing in a lot of ways, I see it personally, thinking and reflecting on my collegiate experience. One of the things that I think that I would love to hear from kind of all of you all, it's like some of the successes that you've had through this experience. Kind of what are some things that have been successful in your experiences with students, your experiences with one another, your experiences through that program. I kind of want to amplify, because we get a lot of, and if you watch the news and you hear things, you hear a lot of negative when it comes to education, right? And so what can we do in this moment as a collective of all men on the screen, and just to kind of amplify what are some of the successes you've had in education, either personally as a student, either through your pre-service program, either through specifically your Call Me Mister. I want to kind of amplify that voice of some of the successful things that you have had throughout this time. And whoever wants to kind of dive into that, I would love to hear those experiences as well.
I wanted to share an experience. The young man is here right now, but his name is Mr. Savon Lee. And through our reading program, Savon went to an elementary school called Mims Elementary. And when he was there, he was reading to a CD class. And a little boy kept whispering in his teacher's ear. And Savon was like, hey, what is going on? What is he whispering about? And, the teacher was like, he loves your hair. He loves the fact that your hair looks exactly like his, and he wanted to touch it. And I thought that was such a beautiful moment for this child to be able to see himself in Savon. And so that was just a major victory, not just for Savon, but for all of us who want to be, a representation of the students that we teach.
Anyone else want to answer that? Okay. Well, one of the things that I want to do before we close is, there are thousands of young men in high school right now thinking about what they're going to do with their futures. And a lot of them it's like education's not even on the table for them. Somehow that light turned on for you. And we're speaking now maybe to educators who are listening, who can speak to those young men, or maybe there's some young men listening, or maybe there's some parents listening. What is your message to them in terms of how they can get connected with the Call Me Mister program? Like, how do they apply for that? How do they connect with it? And maybe what would be your words of encouragement to those young men who maybe aren't thinking about education? Like, what would be your pitch to them to join you in the Call Me Mister program and think of themselves as a future educator?
Well, I'll go first. And so, like for me personally, like when I was in junior, senior, I was one of those later starters. So like I was not sure about what I was going to do, and like what I had interest across the area in agriculture, teaching, construction, but I never had a definite. And I was like that for a while, but then but nothing's gonna change unless you broaden your horizon, you go out and take chances and see what you may or may not be interested in. Then my little brother's mother, she had friends who knew about the Male Minority Initiative at the College of Charleston. And my junior year, it was my senior year, I came down just to try it out, seeing how I liked it, as just to try something new, to help me figure out what I wanted to do, what I didn't want to do. Then coming down with the Male Minority Initiative at the college, just talking to people in education, and I think some of the misses were there. And not just misses, but just other male minorities at the school, and just talking about the school and education. So you see these people who are just like you, even people first generations, seconds, thirds, all coming, they're striving to become these people, they want to shine and help others, while also even if it's not then, even if you don't even go to college, it's okay, but you learn these life lessons, and it helps you get another perspective. So it's take everything one step at a time. You're not always gonna figure everything out, and you never have a set path. No matter if it's hard, maybe you fall, but it's not a dead end. Maybe that just wasn't that wasn't for you, and you keep going. There's never a dead end. There's always a set path. But at the end of the day, as like with Alexis, he goes with sports. I played baseball all my life, and like sports is a part of my life, and I learned a lot of life lessons. Like, and I believe in hard work. If you put in the hard work, then not all the in circumstances you're not always going to get what you want, but with every loss you come to learn something, and like you have a learning moment out of everything, and don't take everything for granted, because there can be people better than you. There can be people where stuff comes more naturally. Like, people are born with silver spoons in their mouth, some people aren't. But most of, yes, it's harder, but you can still work to get it. There's nothing stopping you. If you want it hard enough, you want it bad enough, there's nothing stopping you from getting it. It might be harder, you might be like mentally, emotionally, but if you have the drive to do it, you will find a way to get it done.
I would say my word of advice to high school juniors and seniors is get involved. Get involved everywhere. Don't limit yourself to what your interests are, even when you're going to colleges. Get involved in every discipline and any extracurricular activities, because one thing about a path, it's not always straight. Sometimes you may end up over here, sometimes you may end up over there. But one thing about a call and a purpose is that it always takes you back to the home, in which for me, my call and purpose was teaching. Yeah, I spent years in medical administration management. I spent years in restaurant management, but doing all those things will equip you for the totality of what your call is to do. So I tell every individual who ever thinks about what it is that they want to do in life, and yes, education is a great place to make change. I always tell people the classroom is the #1 place to make change, but try and do whatever your heart desires, because it will lead you to where you are truly called to be, whether it's in the classroom, whether it's in the hospital, whether it's in a courthouse. But do everything you can and seek resources, seek support, because it is out there. Don't allow one door to close without another door opening, because somebody may shut a door in front of you over here, walk around the corner, there's another door open for you. But never give up where you are.
Yeah, definitely. I think kind of going off of what Brenten said, I think it's important to be very open-minded and experience, a lot of things. I think that if you do want to make change or you want to help, I think that education is definitely the route to go. I think there's a lot of opportunities for you to help and just to give back and really push those students that may be struggling in the classrooms. I think you see it all the times, whether it may be, whatever the situation or the reason may be. But I think that if you're able to maybe help that student or do whatever it is to maybe give them that extra push, I think that that's always nice. And, I'm always the type of person that loves to give. And so I think that, being an educator is perfect for that.
And I would add, one of the things I always ask all young men when I meet them, what is your passion, right? If you tell me your passion, I can show you how you can use that passion in education in some classroom, some way, somehow. I remember one year I had a young man, he wanted to teach kindergarten, but he was a drummer. I said, your children are gonna love it when you play the drums. We have another mister who, he's an in-service mister right now, but he was voted South Carolina's #1 DJ, goes by the name of DJ Script, but his passion is DJing. But he was able to speak to his principal, and he bought 30 turntables to now he teaches a DJing class at his school. So no matter what your passion is, like I'm huge in sports, as you hear most of the guys are as well. I can show you how we can take your passion and put it in the classroom so you can make an impact too.
Absolutely. Albert, do you have any final thoughts before we start moving to the close?
I just think that this is a great opportunity to really see and show what educators have the power to do. Somewhere along the line, you all had an educator that invested in you, and it's part of the reason why you're here today on this call with us. And so I think that this is just a moment as a listener, if you're listening in to our podcast or watching this on YouTube, for you to really understand the impact that you have. And, you know, words have intent, words have impact, and words mean things. And so when you have those conversations, really be mindful of how do you talk about education. We see these young men here who are really passionate about education and going into it full throttle. So as we go forward, it's just something to kind of think of and be reflective of, and kind of really make sure that when we are having these conversations, that we really understand that education is a career, it's a profession, it's a moment of advocacy, it's a tool for liberation, it's all of those things that you have to tap into it. And so I think that that's just an opportunity. And I wanted to just say that, not related to our previous question, but just hearing these conversations, it gives me hope. And because I've been doing these conversations across this state, it really gives me hope into what our members, what our educators can do across this state in order to really make some impact for our students and really for themselves, because we can't talk about students without talking about the people who take care of them. So I wanted to throw that out there.
Thank you, Albert. Dr. James, real quick, if someone's listening and they're interested in learning more about the Call Me Mr. program, where do they go to find out about that, or who do they contact?
Yeah, so you can go to our headquarters, which is at Clemson University. You can reach out to Mark Joseph, Mr. Holton, or Dr. Roy Jones. If there's a particular institution you want to reach out to, if you maybe Google Call Me Mr. in that school, you can probably find their director. But I always tell people, you can reach out to me, even if you desire to go to Claflin or Winthrop. I'm more than happy to put you in contact with someone, because my ultimate goal is I just want to see you in someone's classroom. So in my contact information, my email is aljames@cofc.edu. And you can feel free to email me at any point. But again, if you Google me, you can find me and reach out to me, and I'll be more than happy to put you in contact with the correct person.
All right. Thank you so much. So Dr. James, Mr. El-Amin, Mr. Jimenez, Mr. Weeks, and Mr. Jones, thank you so much for being a part of today's podcast episode, The Movement, brought to you by the South Carolina Education Association. And we would love to have you be a part of our movement. Right now, you can join with no dues until September at jointhescea.org. That's jointhescea.org. Be a part of our movement to build collective power so we can organize and make the changes that all of our educators and their students need, because there's a lot of change that needs to be made. But thanks to all of you for being a part of the podcast, and thank you for your leadership. We look forward to working with you at the SCEA as you move into your careers, and best wishes to everybody, and hope to see you again soon. And also, we are going to have a live stream event on April 28th. Just go to the SCEA's Facebook page from, I believe it's 7 to 7:30 on April 28th. We're going to have a discussion about male minority recruitment, and I hope you'll join us for that as well. So thanks again for tuning in. Albert?